So the concept of don't ever feel you're doing enough. Okay? That concept of I'm always going to be eager to do more for Allah. And whatever I'm doing now, if it's good, fine. I will, be proud of myself and humble myself with it and be grateful that Allah opened that pathway for me. But I'm always going to strive to be better and try to increase in my faith and increase in my actions, so I'm not staying at the same level or decreasing. Okay? So that concept is very important, that we'll never do enough for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As much as He does for us, it's never enough. Now, and Hassan al-Basri replies to her and says, "Oh Rabia, I cannot answer that question." And then she says to him, "Oh Hassan, if you're not able to help me in these matters, in these specific matters, I have absolutely no desire in marrying you." And she wasn't doing that to offend him or hurt him. She was being realistic with him. That I have no desire to marry you if you can't help me with these matters, because you can't help me in the akhirah. Now, in that aspect, she had a very aggressive way of thinking. But Hassan al-Basri, we also know who he was, right? But we know he was a righteous man, and mashallah, tabarakallah, all the things that he shared with the ummah, and people still to this day benefit from him and will benefit from him, because Allah put barakah in him, in his worship and his sincerity, because of his sincerity. You would think that two people that loved Allah so much and had so much ilm would be a good match. But this is what she chose. That doesn't mean that was the best choice for her. Not necessarily for all of us, right? Because what do we know about Islam too? So we have to have a healthy balance in our thinking. A healthy balance of our thinking is that we also understand that marriage is like half of our faith. Because God created us as social beings and with needs and etc. That we do need each other as well. And a couple can rise together and a couple can fall together. Depends on what you're doing and what type of lifestyle you're leading, and are you motivating each other in goodness, or are you motivating each other in evil? And yes, two people can be indulging in themselves, indulging in their needs, indulging in the dunya, putting the akhirah aside, putting Allah aside, and yes, that's a very destructive type of ideology. But if two people come together with the sincerity, with that love, with that rahmah, and aiming to improve their faith and to grow their ummah and to have righteous lifestyles and raise righteous children, there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, that's a plus. Okay? But this is something she already experienced marriage. She didn't want to go through it again. And now her main mission in life was to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely out of love. So I had to say that side note, because I don't want people to think this ideology I don't want to get married. I just want to worship God. God's telling you part of worshiping Him is to find a healthy, righteous spouse, inshallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whoever wants dunya, I'll give it to them. So don't be deceived. Why in Surah Luqman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't be deceived, or don't be deluded by this world, or don't be deceived by the deceiver, right? Because sometimes those that don't even believe in Allah, don't even worship Allah, don't give Allah His due credit, are getting good things in this dunya, right? We see them and say well, these people don't even believe in Allah. Why are they getting this? So it said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whoever wants dunya, I'll give it to them. You will get it. Don't worry about it. But whoever wants the akhirah, I'll give you more. I'll give you more. If you understand the concept of dunya and akhirah, dunya is temporary, you guys. And yes, we will have a fair share of eases and hardships. Some more than others. Look what's happening overseas, you guys. What's happening right now? The reality, what we see is disgusting. How people can actually do this, thinking this, and giving excuses for it. Right? And you see the people though. You learn from them. You learn from their patience, their steadfastness, their faith. And that doesn't come from nowhere. God is holding their hearts firm. God is planting their feet. We don't see God, but we see the effects of God. And they have barely anything. Those people, some of them have been under this for so many years and live under this. And the children that you see were born under this and they don't know anything other, and they're content. Yes, they want freedom. Yes, they want to live freely and have their life and grow like everybody else grows and have education and money and take care of their family and have these natural given rights that everybody should have, that God gives us. But at the end of the day, what are they? They're patiently persevering with that solid belief that dunya is not everything. Dunya is not everything. It is us sometimes that we're comfortable, too comfortable, that when something shakes that comfort, we all of a sudden freak out. But they're already in an uncomfortable situation. They have nothing to lose. To us, it seems like we have everything to lose. But what is it that we're losing? If we have Allah, we have everything. If we don't have Allah, we don't have anything anyway. Then it all becomes just material stuff. So we have to actually get out of that. Even if we are comfortable here, does not mean we don't have the power to sympathize and empathize and actually even plan that out. If something were to happen, which, guess what? Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Do you think we're always going to have this calm, serene mindset and livelihood? You guys, let's look at the bigger picture. It's all gonna, every high power goes down. Whether that happens in our lifetime or not. But we have to be prepared for it. Okay? So in this concept of what dunya is and what the akhirah is, this is temporary, that's permanent. God's telling you, I'll give you your fair share of dunya, but that doesn't mean because I love you, you'll have everything in the dunya. And that doesn't mean if you have everything in the dunya, then you're loved. Or if you have the hardships of the dunya, then you're not loved. Something's wrong. Even Muslims have this ideology. I wonder what that person did to deserve this. No, that's not why God tests us, you guys. That's a whole different subject matter, but that's not why God tests us. So understand, you want dunya, God will give it to you. But if you want akhirah, God will give you more than that. He'll give you more than that. So they will receive more back in return from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these days we'll find that it's so hard to do good because there's so much evil happening around us. And that's why we can go back to the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, where he says there'll come a time where you're holding on to your faith is like holding on to a burning coal. And for us, it's not like that yet. For the people of China, the Muslims in China, that they're forced to break their faith, wed other than Muslims, forced to drink alcohol and eat pork, and to be verbally, physically, emotionally abused, maybe at that point it would be hard for somebody to still understand La ilaha illallah and choose La ilaha illallah, even if it meant they're gonna die or be imprisoned because of it. What's happening in Palestine right now? Can you imagine? It would be easy for somebody to go through such an occupation, to utter the words of disbelief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, why? If this is the truth and He is with us, why isn't He helping us, right? We can choose to be that way. And it's easy for them, from all the mishaps happening and the struggles that are happening and the hardships that are happening to them, for them to think and feel that way. But those people are stronger than us sitting here calm, cool, and collected. So again, understand what this world is all about. Yes, there'll be times it's gonna get really hard. And being good becomes harder when there's so much corruption and evil around us. But that does not mean we just follow. Even if we are the last people that walk on the earth and it's a minority of joining good and forbidding evil, we have to stay strong on that. And that hope has to stay have a strong foundation in our hearts. Where even the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said, even if you see the signs of the Day of Judgment, it's all happening right in front of your face, and you have a seed in your hand, he says what? Plant it. At that point, do you think anyone would care to plant a seed if the whole world is going to go to shambles? No, what he's saying is have hope and perceive something that you don't have no knowledge of. Leave that to him. Leave that to him, not to you. So, when you think of Rabia Basriyya, many times we can't even fathom the amount of sacrifices she actually made. She sacrificed a lot of things in this world for just loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and keeping that pure heart, that sincere heart. And when you look at this concept, how did she even do it? Sometimes when you see people that are really hardcore in their faith like that, you're in awe of like how they think, how they live, how do they even do it? I wish I could even be a little bit like that. So on one of her journeys, she went to a journey to Hajj, and she purchased this very weak donkey, and subhanAllah, this donkey on the way to Hajj dies. And she's like, many of the people on the caravan, they knew her, they loved her, they respected her, and they wanted to help her. And they came to her and they said to her, come with us, we'll help you. And this is Rabia. She goes to them, no, don't worry about me. Thank you for your help, but I'll take care of it. And she didn't put her need on anybody. And I'm going to tell you this concept. She was very certain in her relationship with God and his capabilities that she didn't care for anybody else. But I'm going to tell you again, it's okay for us to take help sometimes. Sometimes we get too into ourselves that sometimes just a simple question or seeking help can help us. You have to just be wise in when you do, how you do it, and not be greedy with it, right? Not be greedy with it. Try to be self-sufficient, yearning Allah, desiring Allah, and asking Allah to mend that for you. But subhanAllah, we're not going to get Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to come down, talk to us, or come down, do things for us. He's going to bring his aid through who? Through others, right? How does he aid us most of the time? Through others. And that's why even us as good Muslims, we should have a dua that we say, oh Allah, utilize me to benefit others. Let me be a person that you utilize for khair. Because we want to be of those that serve others, because those are amongst the best people, right? So in this concept, she didn't want their help and she just turns towards Allah. And the Sahaba asked the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they say, Ya Rasulullah, tell me the process and the method that people can love me and Allah can love me. Like they're asking him, Rasulullah ﷺ, how can I have the love of both Allah and the people? Like how can I have both loves? And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told them, he said, that be abstinent and renounce the world, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will love you. And be abstinent and stay away from that which people love, the people will love you. So if you're not greedy in the things that the usual people yearn for, whether it's power or position or wealth or status, what do people usually desire and will fight over for, right? Well, doesn't mean you never get those things, but you don't desire them. You don't go after them. It may come naturally to you, but you don't kill for it. Okay? So if you actually renounce the world and be abstinent in that aspect, Allah will love you because He'll give you both the dunya and the akhirah if you choose Allah. And if you are staying away from what people are usually targeting, their hearts, the sicknesses of the heart target, people will love you too. And that's what happened to Rabia. She told them, don't worry and leave me alone. I'll get it settled. Okay? And then she turns to God and she's having this conversation with God and she says, Ya Allah, what master are you? What owner are you? I'm your slave and I'm trying to worship you. And I'm trying to worship you going through with this donkey. And then this donkey just dies on me? She's just conversating with Allah and asking him, like, what a master you are. Like, why did this happen to me? This is not right. And the historians say that Imam al-Ghazali and Imam al-Safani, rahimahumullah, they say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the donkey life once again. And these miracles are not going to happen like in our eyes. Where he brought that donkey back to life so it could serve her and serving and worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in another situation or part of her life, she was extremely sick. And Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, rahimullah, who was one of he was actually the muhaddith of his time, comes to visit her and looks at her state and says, "Oh Rabia, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure you. Ask Allah to cure you, you're sick." And she looks back at him and says, "Oh Sufyan, I thought you were an intelligent man." Like she's like telling him, "I thought you were smarter than this." And she was like, "Why should I ask Allah to give me a cure? To give me a cure while He is happy with me in this state. And Allah wants me to be sick at this point in my life. And at this point in my life, I'm actually happy with whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants for me." She had a deep, deep, deep love and attachment to Allah. Like I told you, she's the one who revived this pure concept of loving Allah with no strings attached. It's not like do for me and do for you. Sometimes we see ourselves like, oh, I come to the masjid, I go to durus, I pray, I wear my hijab, I do what I can do. Why God is not opening this door for me? Why is God not helping me with this? We tend to think this way, and that's not because just out of nowhere. That's shaitan whispering in your head to put deception and make you deceive and disbelieve and question God. And we all think those thoughts. Nobody's exempt from them. So that's why we have to be conscious of them and know that if Allah brought something to us, then it was meant for us. But that doesn't mean that we don't ask for better or we don't make dua. No, that's for sure something we have to do. So people loved her so much, but she would turn away from them. And she would say that if I am shy to ask that Allah, who owns the entire world for the world, then why would I ask those who don't own the world for the world? Like she's like, if I really wanted something, I'm going to ask it from Him. I'm not going to ask it from those that He positions in certain things in this world. Because she had ministers, kings that would come to her and would want to help her and give her things. And she didn't care for it. So she didn't care really about anything about the world or positioning in the world. And so she was the one that introduced this concept of learning how to truly love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in rectifying one's nafs. Now, in the second part of this dars, we're going to talk about how this concept that she revived and she taught was extremely important in rectifying our nafs. And this all begins when a person realizes, men and women alike, that we are not strong just because we got our education. We are not strong just because we carry out a job and we work 8-9 hours a day. We're not strong because of the level of money that we have or degrees that we possess or positions that we carry. These are things that don't make us strong. We have to have a different mindset when it comes to strength. It's not also the strength of like how we would perceive strong. A person has muscles, can carry a certain weight. We're not talking about this type of strength or this type of strength. True strength is based on how long we can stand in the middle of the night worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. True strength is when we can restrain our anger and not do anything wrong in that state. True strength is when we do what's right even if it means stopping ourselves from doing or thinking of something because we're going to gain something out of it. So a lot of people have this challenge. And all of us do, not just a lot of people, all of us do. Some have it more than others because it's just their type of personality or their lifestyle. And some people are naturally more calm, cool, and collected. Okay? But that does not mean as Muslimin that we either tighten that strength or loosen that strength based off our certain the characteristic attributes that we have. So strength is based on how much we could even cry in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like we have a thing where one of the things it's very humbling to see is when it doesn't matter who, man or woman, old or young, can show that vulnerable state to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some people have a hiccup with doing that. Or how we can actually worry about ourselves and worry about our ummah in the same context. When we talk about strength, wallahi, strength is how much can we control our desires and our nafs, knowing the fact this is something wrong, this is something inappropriate, this is something I should not do, I should not take, I should not say, and I control myself in doing so. That's true strength. But I'll tell you something. Shaitan might encourage something else. And dunya, the people of the dunya might perceive you as weak, vulnerable, stupid, right? Because you don't know how to stand up for what you believe in. But you are actually standing up for what you believe in when you enjoin good and forbid evil, even from your own self. So that controlling of desires, whether you can have something or not, if it's pleasing to Allah, you do it. If it's not pleasing to Allah, you don't do it. Doesn't matter if I have the ability to have it or not in the dunya. Okay? So in life, many doors will open for us. And guess what? Those doors will open to how many times you open yourself to those opportunities. And if you take those opportunities just because they're there in front of you, and you might say, well, nobody sees me, my parents don't see me, my spouse doesn't see me, my friends don't see me, my community doesn't see me, nobody really knows I'm doing it. Well, what are you talking about? Are you fooling yourself? Because then at that point, you're deceived. Because who is the most important witness? It's Allah, not people. If you're worried only about people and you hide from people, but you do certain things in front of people and then hide certain things in front of people, yeah, you think you're gaining here? No, you're losing. You're actually falling into the deception of shaitan, not recognizing that the one who is the all-seer, all-hearer, all-knower knows and tracks everything you do wherever you are. Publicly or privately, he even knows your thoughts. He knows your actions. He knows what you did and what you refrained from doing. He knows this all. And that's why this world, this dunya is a dunya of trials. And the akhirah is the aspect of accountability. That's where accountability awaits us. So whether we get kind of accountable for things in this world or not, we're going to be held accountable. And we're only deceiving ourselves when we think that if I got away from the eyes of the people, I got away. That's not the case. So that's true strength, that's true power, is when we can develop our iman to control our desires and our nafs, pertaining not to what pleases us, what we want, what Allah wants, what pleases Him. Because we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way He wants to be worshipped. And she was the manifestation of these ayat. That if a person learns how to control their own nafs by the love of Allah, they will succeed. And they will be successful in this world, but not only in this world, they'll be successful in the hereafter. So let us not fall back and become kind of like demotivated. Motivated by seeing others in the world succeeding and reaching high levels of and their goals and their aspirations and power and money and position, and we are fooled by that, and we say that these people don't even know Allah and they don't worship Allah and Allah doesn't probably even love them, but yet they're getting all this. So it's really hard for us to see that when somebody is doing so much wrong, yet God is opening that dunya for them. Also know that's one of the things that Allah does when somebody indulges in wrong and does not listen to any type of advice or take any nasiha, or is not conscious of God in any way and thinks they could always outdo evil with evil. God allows them that path to dig themselves deeper. So don't question God in that aspect. God is all knowing, all aware. It happens many a times people ask, these people are not Muslims. They don't even believe in God. They don't worship God. Why are they getting this and that? They're getting the good grades and they're getting the good positions and they're making the more money and they're getting much out of this world. But that's dunya. Like I mentioned to you before, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you want dunya? You just want dunya? That's your hadaf? That's your purpose? You'll get dunya. I'll give you dunya. But that's not a true Muslim's purpose only, the dunya. And yes, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he asked for success in this dunya and in the akhirah and protection from the fire. But if you divide that dua into components, it's 3 different parts. 1 pertaining to the dunya, 2 pertaining to the akhirah, which means that the Rasul ﷺ would never favor the dunya's ease for the akhirah. The akhirah was the priority. The akhirah was the more focused on, because that's permanent. That's permanent. So just if we can understand the concept that if we have the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then everything is ours. Everything is ours. And we're winners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we don't have Allah, then nothing is ours. All the things that we do experience is pointless, temporary. And we don't want to be of those people that think, okay, this life is a good investment. I'm going to live what? Even if you live to your longest life, what, 100, 105? What's the oldest? I think 114. What quality life aslan you're going to have at that age? Second, what are you going to gain from this world that's going to make it easy for you to sacrifice all that in the akhirah? That when we get dipped in hellfire, a person lives and indulges in this life and forgets and ignores Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's what God decrees for them. God forbid it's any of us. And they're dipped for 1 moment, not even kind of like a capturing of time. And when they're asked, did you experience anything good? They say, no, we never experienced anything good. They will forget everything they experienced. And the opposite, that even if you had a whole life of hardship and distress, and you had Allah and God decreed for you Jannah, we'll be dipped into Jannah. And we'll be asked, did you ever experience any hardships? And they will say, no, I never experienced any hardships. So don't think for 1 second that all this is in vain. It's not. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one that will truly give us that success in both worlds. And if we don't have Allah, then nothing is truly ours. This is even a concept the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught to even children like Ibn Abbas. He taught him this when he was under him. He said that if everyone gathered to benefit you, they would not be able to benefit you without the will of Allah, without His permission. And opposite, if the whole world gathered to harm you, they will not be able to harm you without the will of Allah. This is everything that you see is going through the permission of Allah. Now, we have to trust Allah in that. We have to trust what He allows and what He doesn't, what He gives and what He takes, His timing. We have to trust everything, because if we did, it was Hassan al-Basri that said, if we had the perfect knowledge and the perfect wisdom and the perfect sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we would not change anything that He has decreed. SubhanAllah. We wouldn't. So normal people can be walis, friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of their internal love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's not a perception that you have to be like to be the friend of Allah. We don't have to be a specific type of person. We just have to have the internal sincere heart that's filled with love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but not only does it remain in the heart, it goes out and it's something that's reflected on your tongue and your actions. And even the way we think, don't ever be even like those, sometimes when you hear Muslimin will say, well, God doesn't hold me accountable to my thoughts, so I'm going to think whatever I want in my thoughts. Well, you guys don't be like that either, because eventually your thoughts become actions. You cannot just keep a thought in here. It comes out with the way your facial reactions are, your body reactions are. You eventually get to a point where you start to speak and act on those thoughts. So don't ever say, well, it's okay, I'm not held accountable for my thoughts, so I can think whatever I want. I'll use my thoughts process to do all bad stuff I want to do. No, don't ever. You want to actually try to have clean thoughts. And if you have bad thoughts, try to kind of dismiss them real fast, because we don't want them planted where they become something we intend to do. Okay? We don't want those thoughts, because they will harm us eventually. So normal people can be the friends of Allah if they feel the love of Allah in their hearts, and they actually fill their days and their nights and their lives with doing good things that please Allah and show Allah that we truly love Him. You will be from the friends of Allah. Bi'idhnillah. So we have to, that's our aim. We want to be those normal people that are conscious of God, who love God, who fear God, who fill our days and our nights with worshiping God, or at least doing things that please God, so that we can become His friends. Imam al-Shafi'i, and I'll end with this, radiyallahu anh, he says that just by saying we love Allah doesn't truly mean that we love Allah. So words are just words. He says, we continue to transgress the orders of Allah while paying lip service to Him. In reality, this is very strange, because if our love was true to Allah, remember this statement. I want you to all remember this statement. He says, indeed, a lover is always obedient to the beloved. If we love something, we become servants of that. Okay? I want you to think about that very, very, very deeply. If you love money, you see how some people, they love money. I love money, but there's a certain extent to loving money. Okay? If I love money so much that I'm willing to do anything to get it, hurt anybody for it, steal anybody's, even if it's not mine, it's not justfully mine, but it's okay, I could take it because I love it so much, then no, that's very dangerous. Then that means what? I love it so much that I'm a servant to it. That means I'm not a servant to Allah, I'm a servant to money. That means I'll do anything for it. And we know we can't accept it. We can't accept bad money. We can't work just any job just because it's going to give us a nice cushion. We can't take anything from anybody knowing the fact it's not rightfully mine. So even if we extract millions of dollars, billions, trillions of dollars, that will go in vain. That will not be blessed. That will just be a wizard, like something against us that will burn us in this world and the next. So guess what? I'm not a slave of God if that's my only intent. I have to do right by it. Even people we love, whether it's our parents, whether it's our spouses, whether it's our children, do we choose them above Allah? Allah says, what? Me, then your parents, right? And even in the aspect of parents, we're always obedient and we have a unique relationship with our parents. But when a spouse comes into the picture, you're asked to take care of that spouse. Right? And be just with that spouse. So even those relationships that we will do anything for, bend over backwards for, even our children. Sometimes people love their children in an obsessive way. That is not reality. If you're going to choose their comfort over what's right and what's wrong towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we're not supposed to love anything above Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in that concept, if you really want to really worship Allah in the best way, what is your stance with Allah? Do really love Allah? Are you acknowledging who He is, what He is in your life? Because we have to understand this. We have to grow in knowing Him and loving Him in order for us to be truly servants of Him. And if we're not servants of His, that means we're open to be servants to anything else. And that's what you see now. You have people that are enslaved to the dunya. They only think of their position in the dunya, their wealth in the dunya, their things in the dunya, the people in the dunya. They're not thinking of anything else that's not part of the equation, and that's why they do what they do. And for a person that's thinking opposite of that, we tend to sit here and say, how can they do it? How can they even get to that level of doing what they do? But it is this, because they're already sold themselves to the devil, enslaved themselves to the dunya, chasing the dunya, and disregarded actually being a servant and slave of their Lord, their Creator, the one they're going to return to. So keep that very profound in your head, that if I really love Allah, then I'm going to do what pleases Him. If I really love Allah, I'm going to do what pleases Him. And you know how to earn the pleasure of Allah. First and foremost, we know Him, we love Him, we what? We obey Him. We first steps to Allah, showing love to Allah, is by fulfilling the obligatory acts. Then we increase in love, and Allah increases His love for us by doing the what? The volunteer acts. And He goes so much to get into that relationship and deep dive in that relationship that Allah becomes the eyes with which they see and the ears with which they hear. And every aspect then becomes surrounded with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Being their guide, being their light, being their protection, being their source, being everything. So indeed, a lover is always obedient to the beloved. So Rabia is one of the people who have taught us how to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and obey Him in a proper way. So out of today's session, let our hearts be filled with love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is our creator, our maker, our shaper. He is the one who provides us with every single thing. He is the one that doesn't leave us even for a second. Taking care of our needs. Are we recognizing that? Are we thankful for that? Are we humbled by that? Are we attributing everything of goodness in our life to Him? Grateful to Him? So understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who created us, and we will definitely return to Him whether we like it or not, prepared for it or not. But how is the state of our heart when it comes to Him? Do we question Him or do we trust Him? Do we rely on other things or do we rely on Him? Do we seek other things or do we seek Him? Understand, if we understand who Allah is, we will definitely it will fill our hearts with love for Him, and then that in fact our worship will be truly sincere out of that love for Him. So let us walk towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the attribute of love and take a lesson from Rabia in the aspect of how to truly revive loving Allah and worshiping Allah purely just because we love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so much. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to really make us of those who love Him for the most sincere ways. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those who acknowledge Him and love Him and appreciate Him from every aspect of our life. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those who love Him, who fear Him, and always definitely hope in His mercy. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those who turn to Him and remember Him in the days and the nights, and fill our days with doing good deeds that are pleasing to Him. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us that sincerity, that ikhlas in our hearts, and that certainty, that yaqeen in our hearts, and that tawakkul and a reliance in our hearts, that we worship Him the way He wants us to worship Him, and that we love Him and He becomes our main purpose in life, that we only live to please Him and conscious of Him and yearn for Him. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us His love and the love of those who love Him and the love of every deed that will bring us closer to His love. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for our shortcomings, knowingly and unknowingly, privately and publicly, major and minor. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to not hold us accountable to the things that we don't do or the things that we forget. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the goodness of this world and the goodness of the hereafter and His pleasure in both worlds. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.